Some research fellowships are a living nightmare, and not all mentors advocate for their mentees the same way that mine did. I want to share a real story from someone I know and what you can do to protect yourself from being in a situation like this. This applicant accepted a research fellowship position at an academic program after an interview that seemed perfect. They were told that the program was extremely productive and that the mentor was very kind, supportive, and deeply invested in helping the fellows match. They were reassured that the mentor wrote really strong letters and actively called other programs to advocate for their fellows. However, once they started, it became clear that the reality was different. The mentor was unreasonably demanding, calling at any hour of the day, sometimes even as late as midnight, demanding that a manuscript be finished and submitted by early the next morning. If the mentor thought any deadline wasn't met, even if it truly had been met, the fellow would be yelled at and accused of being unprofessional. The fellow was also responsible for coordinating any visiting guests. If a guest arrived late, for any reason, it was always blamed on the fellow. The mentor would yell at them, accuse them of poor communication, and always insist that it was their fault. Even when the fellow had clear documentation that all the details were communicated, the mentor never apologized. This was a daily pattern. The fellow was sleep deprived, stressed, and crying almost every single day. And that same dynamic carried over when it came to the match. Despite meeting every single deadline and often staying up all night to do so, the mentor refused to reach out to any more than a couple programs. If the fellow wasn't constantly reminding the mentor to reach out to programs, it didn't happen. When the fellow asked for a letter, they were asked to write it themselves. They did so, but when they asked the mentor to upload it onto SF Match, each request was met with frustration and sarcasm. The fellow reminded them weekly for 2 whole months, then every few days as the deadline was approaching. Each reminder was met with that same condescending reaction. Ultimately, the letter was submitted a couple hours before the deadline. Friends and family urged them to leave this fellowship, but they felt trapped knowing that if they quit or if they wouldn't secure a letter, it might look poorly on their application. Later, the fellow asked their co-fellow who they interviewed with why they lied during the interview, and their response was honestly really sad. The fellows I interviewed with lied to me too. We couldn't be honest because we needed you to take this position. If you didn't and we ended up scaring the new fellows away, the mentor would take it out on us and we'd be the ones who suffered. In the end, after a year of nightmares, tears, and constant stress, the fellow didn't match. So how do you protect yourself? If at all possible, ask to speak to a former fellow who is not affiliated with that program anymore. That is often the only way to get the most honest picture. I know the story sounds horrifying, but honestly, this is just one of multiple examples I could have used. So please do your due diligence before committing to a research fellowship. The right mentor can make such a positive impact in your life, and the wrong one could look like this.